This is my Unhinged $3,000 anime research computer, with a case costing more than the CPU inside of it, the motherboard costing half a band, with two unholy 48GB RAM sticks, a mammoth 1600 watt power supply, a 4TB NVMe M.2 drive, and for the cherry on top, not one, but two NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 graphics cards inside of it that were released almost 8 years ago. If Linus Tech Tips saw this and called it a dumpster fire, that would be an understatement. But what kind of anime research possessed me to build this $3,000 monstrosity? And asking the big questions, how fast can it run Minecraft? Well, hold your horses, internet neighbor, because let me rein you in on what I've been doing for the past few weeks. If you watched my previous Yap session on why I know the anime industry's blood types, you will know I embarked on this crazy, dare I say bizarre adventure researching anime. But currently working off my 2019 MacBook Pro, I'm stuck with the ball and chain of having a planned obsolescence product and being forced to use Apple's editing software. Because 3 years ago I decided to learn Final Cut Pro, my editing software, because it was a one-time purchase compared to Adobe, which is a subscription, that's more expensive, but now I'm using software, and I'm using new software way more effort than just using Apple software. Which is a problem because Apple will not let me use my legally purchased anime in its native MKV format in the editing software, so I have to run this program called Handbrake to convert it to MP4, which can take hours at a time, completely bricking my computer in the process. But I was fine living with all that until now, because recently there is something I'm in just such short supply of, it justifies me spending $3,000 on a computer, and that is time. The time it takes to convert MKV to MP4. The time it takes to skim through an entire anime, finding cool background footage to use in my videos. Or the time it takes to find a cool reaction image of an anime girl to use in my thumbnails is all time I will lose to the infinite void, like dual factor authentication. So my solution is simple. Quit making videos. No. I'm gonna build a program to do all that stuff for me. But building a program that essentially edits all the background footage in my videos and finds the cool reaction images to use in my thumbnails is a computer vision problem, which is a subset of machine learning, which is AI, but for pictures. And those problems are only solved by having a beefy computer, but also a lot of graphics cards. The more graphics cards you throw at a computer vision problem, the faster and more accurate it'll solve it, which my 2019 MacBook Pro just can't cut it. And when I build this program, I'll have the added bonus of getting a bunch of weird and wacky statistics that I can tell you. Stuff like which anime episode is most likely to be the beach episode in A Slice of Life, or which anime studio adds the most jiggle physics to their anime, or a more interesting thing like every instance of the Akira slide you would see in anime. But before I do that, I need to build a computer that can actually run that program. And it needs to check off every box in my laundry list of wants for a computer. Convert files from MKV to MP4 without bricking my computer. Have enough storage to store every anime I currently have legally purchased and plan to legally purchase in the future. Powerful enough to build this computer vision program. And give my room that Serial Experiments vibe to it, which is currently pretty up there. I mean, I got a bunch of stuffed animals next to this giant computer. At first, I was thinking of making some bespoke tempered glass RGB light show of the computer with a liquid IO CPU cooler with a dancing anime girl on it with figurine inside of it. But then the thought of sleeping next to that thing while it's running made me not want to have that. And then there's the practical problem of building a traditional desktop PC where once you run out of internal storage in it, you then have to switch to external solutions like an external SSD or an external NAS that you plug into your computer. And that comes with its own problems of then having to keep track of which files is on which device, and that would make it very frustrating. So seeing the writing on the wall, I decided to go with the ultra niche, perhaps next tier in the PC master race building sphere, which is building a home lab, which is just a fancy word for saying just having a server at your home. But unfortunately, because server parts are meant for more like businesses that have a bunch of money, I definitely had to bite the bullet and pay a premium for this form factor. With my case costing $480, my server rack costing $300, and then the rails to actually slot my case in the server rack costing an additional $100, I am already 800 bucks deep and I don't even have a freaking computer part inside of it. Building the computer was pretty straightforward, although there were a couple challenges I ran into, and that was mainly just me being stupid and being out of the building community for like 8 years. The first thing I did was I installed my EVGA Supernova 1600 watt platinum grade power supply into the case. I definitely went balls to the walls with the power supply, considering that I may be putting dual 5090s in in it in the future, which are 500 watts each. I definitely wanted to have a power supply that can handle all that load. I then opened up my Asus ProArt X870E motherboard. Since having two PCIe 5.0 CNEX slots in my motherboard means I could run that configuration in the future, and having dual Ethernet, a 10 gigabit and a 2.5 gigabit port on it natively, means that I can have my MacBook plugged into my computer to host all of my anime footage for my videos, and then in the future, if I upgrade to another node in my server, like a NAS storage, I can then have that plug into the 10 gigabit one. I then installed my Samsung M.2 4TB SSD onto the board, which was a bit difficult, mainly because I wasn't sure what I was doing and there was no tutorial on how to do that. So I was definitely being extra cautious installing my drive onto my board. It took longer than I wanted to admit. Speaking of things that took longer than I wanted to admit, I then went on to the sweatiest part of building any computer, which was installing the CPU on the motherboard, which being the AMD Ryzen 9 7950X 16-core 32-thread 4.5 gigahertz CPU. I did not want to mess this up because back in 2016 when I upgraded my old, now gone desktop, I bent the pins on the CPU installing it. So I did not want to repeat that mistake again. I double watched, triple watched, quadruple watched, then prayed to the PC building gods that this CPU would be slotted in perfectly without any issue. After 2 hours of edging installing the CPU, I finally did it, and thankfully it worked. After that, the rest of it was pretty much a breeze. I installed the two 48GB Crucial DDR5 5200 MHz RAM kit. Having 96 gigabytes of RAM means I can run all my programs without any memory issues. I can run a local large language model if I wanted to for some text classification, and of course multitask without seeing any major performance issues. And because the 5090s are not out yet, and I want to make sure I can write a computer vision model in it for a dual graphics card configuration, I went ahead and slotted some old 1080s from the Bitcoin miner I built back in 2017. So that way, if I can't get the computer vision model to work, I didn't waste a bunch of money onto 5090s. So with all that said and done, I then plugged all the components together and then did the first boot test, which thankfully it worked. It's just super cool. But I then had to run to the store real quick to get a thumb drive to put a Windows 10 boot installation on it, which I installed to the computer successfully. But after troubleshooting for a couple of hours, figuring out why I can't connect to the Wi-Fi, the solution was to upgrade to Windows 11, which I did, and that fixed my problem. So yeah, now the computer was built and it all worked. So having had it built for 3 weeks now, I'm pretty happy with the result. It's doing everything I want it to pretty quietly. And I know this isn't directly anime related, but I figured it's anime adjacent enough to justify showing this to you on my channel. And since I had spent several weeks building and designing this thing, I wanted to show it to you anyway. So you're seeing this anyway. But the big question, how many frames in Minecraft? All right, so I got Minecraft booted up. It's a little different from last time. Looks like way behind on the updates. So let's just check this out. All right, I guess we get to pick our world. So let's check out Village Outpost. I guess we're gonna go there. So, all right, cool. Yeah, I guess we start off with some stuff in our inventory. Looks like we're getting some pretty decent frames. The resolution is a little different. Looks like they added the lobotomy update to this game. The computer may not be doing all that. Looks like cows. Okay, I guess we get some fences. I don't know why they're not equipping. Yeah, so looks like I got some pretty decent frames on Minecraft. I think I may need to check into the psych ward after this one though. Pretty unusual update they got going on. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace, gamers.